Welcome. Today, I want to talk to the parent who wants to make a meaningful difference in the lives of those they care about, but you might be feeling really stretched thin. Or maybe you're an employee that feels burnt out or lost in the work that you're doing. Or possibly you're one of the entrepreneurs that I've worked with who, in some cases, I find they can't find joy or fulfillment or the magic in the work that they're trying to do anymore. Now, no matter which of these you might, fit into, you might also feel afraid to seek out help or ask for help or assistance in these sort of areas because you're often afraid of how that reflects on you as a parent, how that reflects on you as possibly being a good employee, or as an entrepreneur, like how that reflects on you and your business and the success that you might be having. Now, in many cases, as I start to bring up this idea of giving and giving more to parents or employees that feel that way, or entrepreneurs that feel this way, it's a cause of additional overwhelm. And that's because I don't think we fully understand what giving actually is. Giving isn't always what we think it is. It's better that we understand it so that we can prevent that stress or overwhelm, from trying to be everything for everyone. A lot of people, they believe that giving means, giving all my time, or it could even be like giving, like writing a check, or I want to give through charity or donation, or I want to buy something for someone else. Like, oftentimes when I start talking about generosity, people misunderstand that because they think generosity is always associated with money. Because that's what we've always been taught. Giving is a way that you are. It's a way that you move about the world, not like what you have or what you're trying to give away. It's a matter of who you are. And when we start to separate giving and generosity from this monetary value, we start to strip away some of those feelings of stress and overwhelm. Because I don't know about you, but when money comes up, finances, that's when stress and emotional things start to come up for me. And we start to get ourselves into a heightened state of emotion. I know when I work with people one-on-one and I talk to them who are struggling financially, like the smallest things could potentially set them off emotionally. And so we want to separate that from those two things. Now, today I want to dive into, this idea of how giving has the power to completely transform not just your life, but the lives of everyone around you. And giving goes beyond just material things, physical things, and the monetary, so we can strip away that emotion. Now, I'm talking about expanding the concept of generosity and looking at your time and your skills and your superpowers and the emotional support that you provide to people. Because, like I said, if you're a burnt out parent, you're exhausted, feeling like you've never enough to give to your family. Like, I want to show you how your presence matters more than anything you can buy. Or if you're that employee that feels stuck, questioning purpose and wondering, like, does your work even matter? I want to show you how giving your skills and your support to others can reignite that sense of fulfillment for you. And if you're an entrepreneur trying to balance, work and life and constantly chasing success, but feeling like you're missing something, I want to show you how you can transform yourself through things like mentorship, the leadership you offer, and generosity, and how that can expand your impact well beyond your business. Now, let me ask you some questions to see if this resonates more with you. Like, have you ever bought something for someone else knowing that deep down, like, what they really needed was maybe more of your time and attention? Or you caught yourself in this cycle of working more and more, but feeling disconnected from your purpose? Maybe as a parent, do you sometimes feel that despite everything you're trying to do, you're still not making an impact on your children's lives? Or in your work, does the sense that there's a deeper way to contribute beyond just completing tasks or hitting your targets? I mean, if you fall into those buckets, like if these resonate with you, then you are not alone. You are in the right place. Now, my name is Jake Talbert. I'm the founder and I'm the author of this book that's called The Giver Method. It's on Amazon. It's an Amazon bestseller. It's $10. It's the best $10 that you could invest in yourself. I promise you that. It will completely change your life, no matter if you're a parent, an employee feeling stuck, entrepreneur, you're looking to transition jobs, you're just graduating from college. Like, this is one of the best books you can do, the best $10 you can invest in yourself. I'll put a link in the description for you. Now, if you're not ready to invest that $10 in the book, I'll put a free resource in there that you can go get. There'll be a link to the Giver's Roadmap. Go get it. I promise you, it will make a massive impact in your life. Now, I have helped countless individuals discover their gifts and superpowers and make more valuable contributions in their life, often that have nothing to do with any sort of money or monetary things. Instead, they're coming from that place of using these unique gifts and superpowers and their presence and like their authentic support for others. Now, I want you to imagine, like, as we go through this video, as we talk through things, like that you're one of my clients here in my office and we're doing a one-on-one session together, because I want you to walk away with these 7 principles for giving beyond material, and the strategies that help you to create deeper connections, more meaningful impact, and even like do it when you feel like you're stretched thin or stressed or overwhelmed. Now, before we dive into that, of course, if you're new here, hit subscribe, ring the bell for notifications. We don't want you to miss out on any of the content we have about unlocking your potential, creating more meaningful impact in the lives of others. You can also go find us on TikTok, Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook under The Giver Method or at thegivermethod.com. Now, let's dive in. I want to get into these principles and really walk through how you can give and create impact without adding more to your plate. All right. So the first one is the gift of like focused presence. Like one of the biggest misconceptions about giving, like we talked about, it's not that it's money. Like it's not more money or effort or resources. Like the truth is one of the most valuable things we can do is just be more present, give our full undivided attention to people. In this hyper-connected, constantly distracted world, one of the rarest, most valuable gifts that we can offer someone is that complete and undivided attention. Focused presence means that you truly bring with you, like I want to bring to someone the physical, mental, emotional of everything I've got without distractions of devices or to-do lists or divided focus. It's about the quality over the quantity, the depth over the breadth. Like, how do we do that? Many people who start to feel that way, if you're burned out as a parent, you're stressed as a parent, overwhelmed as a professional, like they believe that spending time with loved ones, to make an impact, like that they want to go do specific activities. It's like, the truth is that a few minutes of more just genuine connection creates a more lasting impact than hours of let's just go distract ourselves with things. And so that can show up in all sorts of ways. Like kids don't need more toys, or experiences. They need a fully present parent that make them feel seen, heard, and valued. Employees, like, when you start showing up with purpose and actively listening to maybe your colleagues, you feel more invested in the conversations. As entrepreneurs, it means setting aside time for your family, for the people who work for you, mentoring other people without the distractions of work. It's what makes your gifts and superpowers even more powerful when you go to take them out to people, and especially when you're trying to address some of the deepest human needs of feeling seen and heard and valued as a part of that. What you think matters, like you want to pay attention to what matters most to them, what emotions and feelings they have behind the things that they are saying. To implement this sort of an idea, like I always talk about, find those intentional presence moments, or even like maybe it's an appointment that you set. Like, how do you schedule short periods completely distracted from, the people, from the things that could distract you? How do you turn off the distractions, the to-do lists, the devices, all that type of stuff, and just have that undistracted time with the most important people in your life? Parent, that could be 15 minutes, with your child and just playing and being there with them without suggestions or teaching, without your phone being out. Like if you're at work, like having a conversation one day, like each day picking a one person to have a conversation with, where I want to just dive deeper, not look at the screen. I want to know more about what they're feeling, what they're thinking. Before you enter into any sort of these significant interactions, like do attention transitions where, as you walk through, you walk through the door of home, how do you clear your head? Before the beginning of a meeting, before you pick up a kid from school, like take the 30 seconds to like clear your head. Like how do I just clear what I have so I can be fully present attention? Take that deep breath and set your intention. Like I'm going to be fully present, pay attention to everything they're saying. And like, I'm going to put aside anything that could be in my brain that could take me elsewhere so I can just be here with them. Like a simple pause that you can do to help you do that. I promise you, if you start to do that, you find these 15, maybe 30-minute windows, one a day or a couple a day, like it's going to have such a significant impact on you, because your presence, our presence that we have, it's often the thing that people crave the most, yet it increasingly stingy with it sometimes. We don't always do that. Like we give money, we give advice, we give help, and we withhold our full attention by constantly splitting between people and devices, between being a present moment and the mental, like what could be happening in the past, or what we could be doing in the future. Like don't divide your attention in that way. It diminishes the impact of the time spent that you're going to have with people. Your presence is a gift that builds trust and strength in relationships. It makes people feel valued. When you master this sort of idea, you lay the foundation for all other forms of giving, and it doesn't take any more money. It doesn't take any more effort. Like you just need to show up. Now, our second principle, which is going to be definitely grounded in the ideas of the giver method, which helps people discover their gifts and superpowers as one of the first steps. Like, you need to identify and share what your unique gifts or superpowers are. Like, those natural talents and strengths and passions, they are superpowers and some of the greatest things you can give to others. Everyone possesses unique strengths. Yes, even you, if you're like, I don't know about that, like, everybody does. The natural abilities just come easy to you that sometimes are challenging to others. Like, sometimes it's a tangible skill like problem solving or organization or creativity, or it might be something more intangible like patience or empathy or the ability to, stay calm under pressure. The challenge is that many people either don't recognize their gifts because they're just so natural, or they don't see how their gifts are valuable to other people. Like, what makes this really powerful is the fact that, you can take your gift, your superpower, like in the giver method, and you can transform that into value, which is what we teach. Instead of defining your worth, primarily through the financial contribution or material provision, like, you begin to recognize the myriad of ways your natural abilities are creating value and impact for others. This shift is so important when you're a parent who might be feeling that stress, overwhelm, burnout, whatever you want to call it. And you may feel that the only value as a provider, the only value you have to your family is because you're a provider. Or if you're that employee that feels stuck in your role, you can't utilize your true strengths. Or as an entrepreneur, you focus so much on the business metrics that you've lost sight of maybe the unique gifts that drove the passion to create that business in the first place. When you identify and you're intentional about sharing your gifts and superpowers, you move out of a scarcity mindset, which causes this fear, this delay, this stress and overwhelm, to an abundance mindset where you think about how your unique value that you can offer, and it costs nothing. I can give it freely, So just start, take an inventory of the superpowers you have. What comes easy to you? What do people ask you for help on? What activities energize you? Write down the answers. Ask some people you may know, what would they come to you for? What do they see as your superpowers? Often others see things that we don't. So then look for the patterns between what you believe it is and the feedback you could get from others. Find the recurring themes. And once you've identified what your unique strengths are, then consider how they might benefit different relationships in your life. How could you use your gifts or superpowers to have an impact on your kids or your partner, or bring value into a situation at work, or how you could be more empathetic with a colleague or with a client. Another powerful practice is, it's called gift stretching, where you intentionally apply your natural gifts in the context where maybe you haven't used them. This is a really powerful thing that you could go do, where you start to look at it as, I'm really good at breaking down complex problem situations for people. How can I use that in different facets of my life? How can I apply this in these different ways? Identify what comes natural to you and then start to find the ways to put it out there. Now, this is so important because many people, especially those who feel stuck, burned out, lost, stretched thin, they believe they have little value to offer beyond maybe a financial contribution or labor or, the work that they're doing. They fail to recognize these natural abilities that represent the resources that could significantly impact those around them. And you identify them and you're intentional with them. You tap into this renewed resource of value creation and it will energize you. Using your superpowers reminds you that you already have everything you need and you can create the right impact. Your gifts, they're not meant to be kept to yourself. They're meant to be shared with others. When you understand this, giving becomes less about a sacrifice and more about this natural self-expression. Okay, now the third one is that there's this art of supportive listening. Now, we talked about being fully present. Now let's just talk about just supportive listening, because one of the most powerful and undervalued forms of giving people have. It goes beyond just hearing the words. It's about creating a safe space where people feel understood and validated and supported. Unfortunately, most of us have never been taught how to listen effectively in this sort of a way. We interrupt, we problem solve prematurely, we're comparing situations to our own experience, and we half listen while we formulate responses. True supportive listening, it requires you to set aside your own agenda. Most people think that if I'm going to be generous, I'm giving a solution. But once again, just like presence and being there, simply listening and not trying to fix the problem is one of the greatest gifts you can give. Parents will jump in and try to fix things instead of just listening to their children. Spouses, oh my gosh, that we try to solve our spouse's problem all the time, and we try to, dive in without validating the emotion behind it. Entrepreneurs and leaders rush to give advice, to employees or colleagues just to feel understood. this is challenging for problem solvers and fixers. I'm a problem solver, so I like to jump in and try to solve solutions. So it makes it difficult. What this does is we want to hold the space where we can allow people to get out what they need to be said, and then look for what is the underlying emotion or experience that's driving what they're saying. It's impactful because it addresses this universal human need to feel understood. In a world of advice and opinions and quick fixes and YouTube videos, don't discredit YouTube videos because this is a great one, but there's all sorts of ways that people can get lost in the things. And so when you can listen supportively, you're validating the other person, their experiences, their emotions, and you start moving them into these new ideas of solutions. Now, to implement this idea, you practice this idea of there are 3 levels of listening. Like level 1 is like factual listening, paying attention to the basic content of what someone is saying. The level 2, where you're going to dive a little bit deeper, is going to be emotional listening and tuning into those feelings behind the words, the tone, maybe the facial expressions, the body language. And the third one is needs listening, where you're discerning and trying to understand the needs, the values, the desires that are motivating that person's concerns. Most of us stop at level 2. And some people who are really good with empathy can get into level 2. Like most of us do level 1, we stop there, we never get to 2. Some people are good, they can get to that second level, and where it really becomes impactful is when we can get to that third level. And we practice moving through all 3 of them, in as we have our next conversations. Like we could do this in any conversation we have when we engage with people. Focus on understanding before shifting and responding. Another thing is just validate before, you look for a solution. When people are talking, there's this emotional repivoting or rephrasing that you can do where as someone is talking, then it's like, well, that sounds challenging. I want to, hey, I want to understand, like, are you saying, like, I want clarification behind. Try to dive into getting beyond the surface level thing they're saying to what is the emotion or the desire, the value behind it. Like, it's only after that sort of validation that it's like, cool, well, now can I offer you some suggestions in the future? Hey, that sounds really tough. How can I support you? What else could we do? Just keep practicing that sort of listening. Now, it's essential because our natural tendency, especially when we care about someone, is to jump in and fix and relieve the distress. Like well-intentioned, like this approach often leaves people feeling misunderstood and not validated. Supportive listening requires that temporary setting aside of our own needs, our own agenda, anything to try to be helpful to reduce our discomfort with others, difficult emotions. Like, just focus on what they're saying and the feelings behind them. People don't always need solutions, they need a connection. When people can come and feel like their real thoughts and feelings are heard without being judged, like they're going to open up so much more and you're going to have a deeper relationship based off of that. Now, the fourth one, I think is really important in the way we give, and it's all around this idea of mentoring and sharing knowledge. Mentoring and knowledge sharing is one of the most impactful ways of giving that's beyond material ways as well. Like throughout your life, you accumulate all these valuable expertise and insights and wisdom through your education, your career, relationships, the experiences you have, your personal growth journey. Like this knowledge is so tremendous. It's a resource that can significantly benefit others, particularly those early on in their journey. Now, one of the most underrated ways that we can give is in this idea of mentorship and guiding and teaching and supporting others through their own experience. Parents, gosh, you can mentor in all sorts of ways when you look like, how you're going to help your kids learn life skills and share stories and such. At work, as an employee, like mentorship could be supporting new coworkers or offering career advice or guiding someone who's struggling. As a business owner, entrepreneur, like it means giving back to the next generation of leaders and helping others avoid mistakes maybe you've already made and lifting others up. I know for a long time, I was always super protective of some of the stuff I felt was like the knowledge I've gained, and I want to be careful because it's mine and I only want to give it to the right people. And part of writing the Giver Method and discovering that was this idea of like, no, I can give all of the knowledge I have. I can just give it away for free. And the universe, as I do that, as I give my gifts, my superpowers, my knowledge, my skills, expertise, experiences, stories, the universe will pay me back. It always does, it always has, and it will. Like it will do that for me. The truth is that your hard-earned knowledge, whether about parenting or professional skills, relationship wisdom, personal growth, like can save years of struggle for others. Accelerate their development in meaningful ways. What makes knowledge sharing practical is that it creates lasting impact far beyond just that single interaction. When we teach someone a skill, insight, it changes their perspective. You're not just helping them in the moment, but you're enabling them to help others and enabling them to change their perspective about where they're going far into the future. This form of giving is going to enhance your own understanding, your own mastery of what it is that you do. Like, is it the Roman philosopher Seneca who said, "While we teach, we learn." Like, it's amazing the things that while I'm teaching, I learn new ways to create value for others, or maybe I discover new skills. So you want to start by going through, like, what assets do you have? What knowledge assets do you have? Start creating the list of, like, what have I learned? How could this help someone else? What questions do people frequently ask me? What processes or skills have I mastered that I could help others with? And then after you've identified those assets, look for the opportunities that, could be formal, informal, that you could give those to people. Start utilizing that as a part of that process. This is important because knowledge sharing is one of the most sustainable and scalable forms of giving out there. Unlike giving that requires any sort of physical presence or a finite resource, sharing knowledge can impact people that you never meet because it has that massive ripple effect, and you build a legacy long beyond or far bigger than you will ever know how much of an impact it will have. This is super important when it's, especially in family relationships or long-term relationships with clients. Now, the fifth one is going to be all around this idea of offering emotional steadiness, because your ability to remain calm and present and supportive during challenges, especially when they're emotionally charged situations, is so important. It means being that steady anchor when others are experiencing turbulence, or denying or minimizing their feelings, by providing this stable, non-reactive presence that helps navigate difficulty without overwhelm. This is a form of giving that's particularly valuable in today's world because there's so much anxiety and uncertainty and overwhelm. That's part of what we talked about at the start of this video. Families, workplaces, communities all have someone who can maintain a perspective and emotional balance during challenging times. And it's in a valuable sense of safety that is created, and stability for everyone that's involved. It's that emotional stability it's contagious in all directions. Anxiety and reactiveness, that can spread quickly through relationships, but so do calm and steadiness. And when you maintain emotional balance while you're still being empathetic and present, you can regulate others' emotional states as well. And it's just a simple fact of how that works. Now, one of the things that you can do as a part of that is, look at it as the emotional anchor. What are the intentional practices you use to help maintain your stabilities? It might be deep breathing or mental reminders of your core values, or, how do I center myself? What are the techniques I can do I can center myself in the moment? The goal isn't to suppress an emotion, but to create the space between feeling and reacting to allow you to respond with more intention. And you practice these techniques during minor stress situations, and they start to become automatic when the big things arise. Remember, you can acknowledge and validate others' feelings without absorbing the emotional state, or losing your own balance as a part of that. Now, this emotionalness, this stability is so important because, it impacts the effectiveness of our relationships. It impacts our ability to be, impacts our ability to problem solve. When we get caught up in other stresses and anxieties, we lose access to our higher cognitive functions. We and lose our, good, creative problem solving skills. When you maintain emotional steadiness, you bring that full capability, to every interaction rather than being limited to reactive emotions. You don't have to be cold in any way, but it's a matter of just showing up differently. Now, the sixth one is that you create these meaningful rituals and traditions with others, because it's a powerful way that you give beyond material by just investing in the fabric of the relationship or the community. Rituals are just those regular practices carrying symbolic meaning, creating a sense of connection or continuity or shared identity. It could be a daily ritual like family dinner or bedtime routines, weekly rituals, game nights. It could be team check-ins. It could be seasonal traditions, holiday celebrations, annual trips. What makes rituals so powerful is that they create predictable touch points for connection in otherwise super busy, often chaotic lives that we have. We often feel like we're stretched thin and believe that, any giving or anything requires extra effort, but when it's just a natural part of who we are, it's part of our ritual, checks out of our brain of having to overthink about it. It allows us to be more aware of what's coming and just start to look for those natural points where we can, those natural transitions in our life, in the day, the meal times, in the week, the year, like what are those anchors of connection that we're just drawn to, and it makes us easy to not have to think about or make decisions around, so that we can just keep the steadiness of the routine going. And the key is consistency. Just stay positive and stay active in that world, because when you have, if you want to have quality relationships, like it's based off the cumulative time and experiences that we have together. And when you create these routines, like it's these cumulative small impacts or regular interactions that are going to, have that greater impact, rather than grand gesture or some occasional master crazy event that we do. Without any sort of intentional ritual, important relationships often get whatever time or energy is left over, which often can be depleted after a day of work and such. By creating protected time for connection through rituals and traditions, you really do ensure that what matters most actually gets priority in your life and doesn't get continuously pushed aside. Now, this world is full of all sorts of things that can cause uncertainty, and so rituals provide that anchor of predictability and belonging, and they support emotional well-being. And of course, the seventh one, you have to be good at gift receiving. As a parent, as a spouse, as a sometimes employees, as an entrepreneur, like if we are a giver, oftentimes we struggle to receive. And that's a skill that is actually essential to the meaning of giving. Gift receiving is the ability to accept others' contributions, support, care with genuine gratitude without diminishing the offering or feeling unworthy of receiving it. Many people I come across, they just don't feel like they deserve it. You might identify as a giver, but you struggle to receive generously. You deflect compliments. I've done that so many times. You minimize others' contributions. You insist on, giving back immediately or anything. Like, just it feels uncomfortable to receive and be on the receiving of it generosity in many of these cases. But true giving is a cycle. It requires giving and receiving. Someone has to be on the receiving end. We can't all just give and never receive, because then you don't have anyone to give to. When we receive well, instead like of having to give, like we accept someone's offerings with genuine appreciation rather than dismissal or discomfort, you affirm the value in their contribution and build them up and help them grow even more. That exchange strengthens the relationship in ways beyond just a one-way thing could ever do. It prevents burnout and exhaustion. There's all sorts of ways that you could look to implement this sort of idea, but the simple principle is to start accepting those things with gratitude. This is essential because sustainable giving requires that replenishment. Even the most generous givers eventually burn out if they don't receive care and support and renewal from others. So learn to receive, it's not selfish. It's a necessary component to continuing to give effectively over the long term. This is so important. Like, if you're prone as a caregiver or, as a parent or a healthcare professional, like, others, if you're in some sort of a helping role, you prioritize others' needs before your own. So the best way to heal that sort of burnout is through that intentional, meaningful connections and allowing people to give back and finding the joy and energy in that. Now, as we've explored these 7 things of giving beyond material, like, we want you to find the ways to make meaningful impact with your time and skills and superpowers, and the emotional support you can offer to others, from, focused presence and sharing advice to, how we receive. Like, they're all valuable forms of giving that often have nothing to do with monetary or material possessions, which are the things that often cause the stresses and overwhelm of it. When you offer emotional steadiness, you create meaningful rituals and mentor others, like you transform your relationships. You create lasting impact even when you're feeling stretched thin. Remember, these principles aren't about adding more to your plate. They're actually about shifting how you show up in your relationships and roles so that it frees up time and energy for these things that will re-energize you. It's about recognizing the most valuable contributions come not from what you buy, or provide financially, but from who you are and how you share who you authentically are in your gifts with others. Giving, it's not about what you buy, it's about how you show up. At the end of the day, your impact, isn't measured through the material provisions that you've given. But your authentic sharing of ourselves. And over time, our gifts and our knowledge and our presence have such a massive impact. Parents who feel this stress, overwhelm, and maybe burnout, like, It means finding strength and being fully present with your children, even if it's in short periods of focused time. If for that employee feeling stuck or lost, it means recognizing that your unique strengths and perspectives can create value beyond your job description, which reinvigorates your sense of purpose. And for entrepreneurs seeking balance, it's understanding that your legacy will be measured not just in the business success, but the people you uplift along the way. The world needs you and your unique gifts and superpowers. It's your special abilities and your perspectives that only you can offer. But these gifts can only, create the impact when you're intentional about sharing them with others. Now, if you want to dive deeper, if you want to learn more, then that's where go get the Giver Method book in the description, or go download the Giver's Roadmap from the description. It's going to help you to identify your gifts and strengths and create more meaningful impact and live a more generous life. Now, I'd love to hear how any of these resonated with you. Please leave a comment, share maybe an insight, an aha, a takeaway, or maybe something you want to go implement. Put that in the comments. But in reality, now is the time for you to take action. Choose just one way we talked about and just start to do that this week. And remember that generosity isn't measured by any material thing. It's what you share of yourself authentically with others. Your presence and attention and your unique gifts are the most valuable resource to offer, and that won't deplete you. They'll actually re-energize you. So with that, I'll just say thank you for watching. Until next time, keep giving, keep growing, and keep making the greater impact in the people who are closest to you's lives in your sphere of influence, because you can have that greater impact. And when you do so, I promise you, the universe will always pay you back. So have a great rest of your day, and we will catch you in our next video.